Hello friends, and welcome to CJoy Yoga. This week's focus, we're moving up the body. Last week was feet and foundation, and of course the ankles kind of went along with that. We did quite a bit of ankle work. Today we're going to bring it up to the knees and up to those upper legs, the thighs and the hamstrings a little bit more. So the Zoom classes will be your full hour of really getting down and dirty and going into that with a regular old, regular as far as regular, as I do, regular old yoga class. This is going to be some of what I call vitamins, right? There are shoulder vitamins, knee vitamins, different joint vitamins that we do. And I think if we do them on a regular basis, whether we have an injury or arthritis or not, if you have those things, it's super helpful for that. But if you don't have those things, it hopefully ensures that you never do have those things. You know, all said and done, if you fall down when you're skiing and you do something to your meniscus, that's going to happen. But maybe when you fall down, nothing does happen because they're strong and they're healthy. So you are going to want to have a blanket of some sort. If you have a blanket, that would be brilliant. If you have a couple, that would be really helpful. You might want blocks to put underneath the buttocks for when we're sitting in what's called hero's pose. And we're going to do a couple of things that are going to be a little bit more with balance, but it's not about the balance at all. I would way rather have you hold onto a wall or a chair and not worry about trying to have perfect balance. And I would way rather have you hold something and worry about alignment in the knees. So possibility of things you might want standing by. The blanket we're going to use right off of the bat. So you can just sit down on your mat. And you can take that blanket and what I often call the burrito roll, although hopefully you're not hungry or I just made you hungrier, or like a sleeping bag kind of a roll. So you want something that has a softness to it, but not too crazy soft, right? A little bit of form or shape that it's going to keep. And then I think I'm just going to turn and face you this way. You're just going to extend your legs out and just have enough width between them, like probably a little wider than your hips, just so you can put one knee up on that blanket comfortably, right? And I've got it up fairly high. You can find out what works for you. A little lower would be fine, but for what we're doing, a little bit of height can be nice. And you can lean back on those arms. You don't have to worry about core or sitting up super tall right now. It's about the knee, right? So I'm under my left knee. I didn't specify, but I'll speak to the left knee. So whatever leg is on the blanket, I want you to go ahead and just start to really gently, slowly pull the kneecap up, we sometimes say. It's an odd cue, but what it is it's activating your quadriceps. And as I activate my quads and start to work the muscles around the knee, my heel is going to lift and bring that down. Now I'm not popping into it. I don't want to move into hyperextension or a lock knee, and we'll set it back down. So let's add breath. Inhale, really gently, really slowly, start to engage those muscles, and in doing so, we're going to pull the heel up. And exhale slowly and controlled, bring the heel back down. Let's do that 3 more times. Again, think of these as vitamins for your knees, right? We're hopefully engaging all of the muscles that need to be engaged at one time in an equanimity so that we don't have one side that's taking over. Most of us, it's our outer thighs that do way more work than the inner, and we end up with asymmetry here, right? And you probably have about 1 or 2 more of those. If you're already finishing, like I already done them. A, you might move a little slower. B, go ahead and do another one. I'll finish my last one right here. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to bring that down and release that. Before you put the blanket under the other knee, just pause for a moment. And you know me, I really love to sense into whatever it is that we're doing and just take it in and notice what's happening in that area. Now move that blanket under your other knee, potentially your right knee, but it's just the other one, whatever that is. Again, feel free to lean back. And I'm not like crazy hard flexing my foot, but I've got a little flex in it. You don't necessarily have to, but if I don't, I go into external rotation and then I'm not working all the muscles equally, right? So try to find a neutral rotation on the leg. Really slowly start to engage these quadricep muscles that are going to start to lengthen and straighten the knee. And slowly bring that back down to let it tap. And again, work pretty slowly. Notice what fires up. This is where doing this kind of work is when I realize, ooh, my outer thigh really wants to take over. I really have to invite that inner part of my quad to activate. And that might not be your pattern, just pointing out this kind of stuff is where we figure that stuff out usually. And go ahead and do about one more of those, or, you know, this is where you start to personalize your practice. If you're like, wow, my right knee is really weak, do more of them on the right side. Click pause, you can, right? And do less on the other side. And go ahead and remove that blanket out of the way. And for just a moment, just for a little bit of, I have a teacher, T.S. Little, whom I love, and he calls it neurological flushing. And there is actually quite a lot of science behind this. You're going to let your toes move into each other, let them move out away from each other. And then you're going to get pretty loosey-goosey with it and pretty rapid, right? I'm usually a move slow kind of gal, but with this stuff, this is actually more beneficial if we simply let the feet rock. Now, if you have pain shooting through a joint, don't do it, right? But usually if we move in this way and we keep everything super duper soft, we start to do a little bit of moving of our myofascial lines, right? Maybe getting some hydration in the fascia, the connective tissue. And now try to go your fastest, your quickest that you can possibly go, being as loosey-goosey as you can, and just let everything just shake. And we'll be doing it for just a little bit more, yes, this long, right? And then let it go, let the legs go wherever the heck they go. Notice any kind of sensation roaming from the toes all the way up. Shoot, you might feel it up your spine or your back or... Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and we're going to come on to hands and knees. But now you're going to unroll that blanket a little bit so you have a stack. And this is where you're going to have those blocks on standby, right? And I'm just going to have you start with at least a block. And if you know you're pretty tight, you might do 2 blocks, yeah? You're going to bring the knees in front of you. My ankles are just a little bit wider. And when I'm with you, I get the honor of coming in and putting something in there for you. But when I'm not there with you, you can just bring your head down onto the ground. And you're going to bring that blanket in and jam it in as high up as you possibly can behind your knees. And then try to sit back on the blocks. If you're like, well, I don't really feel anything. You're getting some good stuff right now with that spacer being put in there and the back of the knee getting a little bit of separation while we move into the bent knee position. Really, really good for synovial joint fluid to be able to move around the cartilage, to be able to rejuvenate, I'll call it, or at least stay healthy. And if you want, you could always take one of those blocks away and see what that's like coming down to the next one. You could put that on medium or high, right? You have 2 blocks with all kinds of adjustments. Stay in it if you can, right? And I just want to point out that if you're like, my knee totally does not do that, another option would be to sit on the side of that chair you have and just let your knee move down any amount, trying to put the foot behind you and moving your knee towards what's called flexion. And then you would go over and do it on the other side, right? And then for some of my friends, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the blanket away. And we're going to go ahead and start to sit back down. Again, my ankles are a little wide. My knees are no wider than hip distance. They don't have to be together. That's the way it's taught a lot. But they could be just a little wider. Just don't let them go wider than your hips, your hip sockets. And if you want a block, you put a block, 2 blocks. Right? Take care of yourself. A lot of us are probably feeling a stretch coming through the quads that we just worked. And go ahead and come on out of that. And then we're going to pump the back of that knee open a little bit. And that is stretch one leg behind you and just go ahead and rock a little forward and a little back. The other thing I love about the blanket in that position is that it starts to massage the hamstrings above and the calf below, right? Putting that pressure in that area. Let that come on down and then put that other leg behind you and start to rock a little forward, rock a little back. You can imagine that if the quads are really tight all the time, or the hamstrings, or your calves and or all of these, how that can wreak havoc on knees, right? Especially if it's uneven, just because there's constantly that pressure of that tight muscle pulling at it. Come on up to standing. This is where, if you want that chair standing by, I personally am going to use a chair. Then I don't have to worry about balance. I can concentrate on my knees. Let's have our right foot forward. Actually, I'm going to turn this way because my microphone is on that side. Let's have our right foot forward and our left foot back, and I don't have very much space between my feet right now, yeah? And then from there, it's simply this. We're going to bend our knees as much as we can, leaving our heels on the ground. And coming on up, my left calf's pretty tight, so I don't get very far before that left calf is like, ha, 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 and my Achilles tendon, right? So whatever it is for you, you might not even get as far as I do, you might get further. Doesn't make you better, doesn't make you worse. Just means that's where your knee joints are today, your Achilles tendon. And let's do one more. And then we're going to switch our feet out. We'll put our right foot back. The heels are grounded on both feet. I'm not lifting my heels for this version at all. And I start to bend my knees as far as I can. Is this side different? What's the experience like over here? Yeah? I'm actually shorten my stance a little bit. I think I was a little wider than the other side. Adding breath potentially. Breath is always good. And do the last one you're working on right now and come into standing. Again, at home, pause. Do more on one side, less on the other if you know one knee needs more attention. Right foot forward, left foot back. Some of my friends, you're going to do exactly what we just did. Some of us, we're going to lift our heels as high as we possibly can, and now we'll do the same thing. We'll exhale, we'll come down, leaving our heels lifted, bending the knees as much as you can. Notice how with the heels lifted, how that shifts this for you, what changes. And you know, I haven't set a lot of focus on it, but hopefully your knees are moving forward, not out to the side or not inwards like knock-kneed. My knock-kneed friends, you would be careful of the inner motion, right? My bow-legged and duck-walking friends, we're careful our knees don't go wide. That's my school personally. One more of those. And then we're going to switch it out and we're going to put the other. My friends who love to go skiing, this would be something you could put in for conditioning of the quads and the knees. And not just the day before you go out, right? Do it throughout, knowing this is ski season. And man, I bet you anything, it makes an effect on your ski season, hopefully in a very positive way. And one more. So now you have two options. Put your heels down, step your right foot forward, but this time you're going to step your left foot way back. Again, you can totally use the chair, right? And then go ahead and bend the right knee. So we're moving towards what we often refer to as Crescent Pose, right? And then from there, I'm going to try to tap my left knee down to or towards the ground. And coming up. I'm not using my left arm to push myself up, but I am allowing it to take balance out of the way so I can really focus on the motion of the knees here. And breathing. If this isn't for you, go back to one of the two we did before this. And I'm not dumping down on my knee. Please don't do that. Nothing good about that for the knee, right? I just tap and then I lift. And let's do one more of those. I don't know that I'm doing the best job of counting out 5 each time, but, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna switch the feet. You can switch the feet however you need to, stepping forward, back, etc. Left foot will be forward, right foot's back. Feel free to continue to use your whatchamacallit, whatever your whatchamacallit happens to be. Again, we're gonna start to let that right knee move down. I'm gonna move my arm so you can see. Ooh, this side's so much harder than me. It wants to plop down. So I have to try to find that control right about here. It all wants to get lost. This is my weaker knee, by the way. And coming up, I've got more issues in this hip, this ankle, etc. So I'm not saying that's you. But this is where I notice those asymmetries and I see if I can't help them out. So in my personal practice, I would probably try to do a couple extra on this side, but I'm not going to do that since I'm filming for your benefit. Woo! Do one more. I'm out of breath. Doesn't seem like it's much, but holy crap. Step forward, catch your breath if you're anything like me, and just pause and notice what you notice. Hopefully, you feel some of the work that's coming into this area of the legs. So let's go ahead and let's do, I'm trying to think of what I planned. I forgot to write it down, or I did, I wrote it down and it's still at home. I want to do one more stretch after having done all of that work, and then I think we'll call it a day on this video. So quad stretch. So just pointing out before I go down, it might simply be, depending on your knee joint and all the situations in your body, it might just be from standing. I find bringing the knee forward makes it more accessible to be able to grab my ankle than just trying to grab it from here without contorting. And you might just move the knee down, trying to keep it in. You could use a strap. If you're okay in a lunge, I am, but I need a pad, right? You're gonna come into a lunge and you're gonna bring the right foot forward and the left knee down back behind you. Now from there, depending on your balance, you'll have a wall or a chair near that right side, or maybe even a block on high. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start to move the hips forward. It's easier on the knee because now I'm not gonna be on the patella as much. I'm gonna bend that left knee and I'm gonna try to grab back with my left hand and pull my heel towards my buttocks-ish. But of course, those who study with me regularly, you know it's really that frontal hip point pulling up, 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 up as the knee moves back and down, and those two pieces moving away from each other hopefully give us a really lovely stretch through the front of that left thigh, the quadriceps muscles. Say that 10 times fast. Woo! Take another breath. Again, feeling free to using any balancing point. It's not about that right now. Don't get macho on me. And releasing that down, taking your time, switching out, setting up a support next to your left side if that's what you would like. And I don't know if I said it, but you notice I just put my arm on my thigh, right? So I come forward into the lunge, left hand on whatever it wants to be on, or elbow on leg. I bend the right knee and reach back. I might strap it if I can't quite grab it. And as I pull that heel in, I'm just as equally pulling the frontal hip point up and reaching that right knee down and back to try to lengthen through the front of the right thigh. The right shoulder is going to roll open. I'm not saying don't, but can you get that chest to move just a little forward anyway, so it's a little less of a twist to try to get into it. We keep the spine just a little more neutral. Take a breath and release that down. How is about a child's pose for good measure? Hips can stay higher. You could lie on your back and hug the knees in if for any reason your knees and your hips don't care for this posture. I'm going to leave my head high so you can hear my voice. You could put your head a little higher if you notice that the back of your neck gets way too long and the front gets compressed, etc. Or forehead might come to the ground. Now just really gently, again, assuming there's no pain in your joints, let your right hip, your hips move over to the right and then back to center and over to the left. So it's just a slight rocking motion. And again, double check always to make sure your body is okay with it. And it's not like, oh, the teacher's doing it. I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to do it, and forcing it on your body. And then come back to center. And let's go ahead and let's come up to seated. Couple of options. You could sit in the chair, you could sit cross-legged on a block, right? I'm going to suggest hero's pose since we did a lot of the knee work today. If this is not available, don't do it. You can have a block behind you. I like mine on the medium setting between my ankles or heels, right? So my buttocks bones have a little lift. My spine's got a little lift. My knees don't have to be all the way in, but just don't let them be wide, please. That's knee health. Just want to keep your knees safe. And pause. And just notice what you notice. Bring your hands together at your chest. Take a big ol' inhale. Exhale, bow your head in, taking a moment of gratitude that you gave yourself this space and time. Let's send some love to our beautiful knees, no matter what's happening in there. Thank goodness for these knees. And as always, remembering that we are on the same team as our body. right? Not that we're on different teams. We're all on the same team. And then I guess you could bring that in the broader context, like all of us in this world, even those insurrectionists, as much as it's hard to say, we are all in this together. Namaste. Love you. Love your knees.